So I was asking my love here what Samhain means. Actually, no, she told me. And I totally forgot. So I need to hear again. And we need to hear again. But you can't see her. It's right in her face and you can't see her. That's how dark it is out
Any
here.
attention to his lesson on Samhain.
Oh, kind of.
So we were doing our ritual to celebrate the Day of the Dead in Samhain. And we did it. And now we're looking at the flames of the fire. And I was telling him that it's a fire festival. It's very ancient. It goes back to the European ancestors, both in the Celtic people and the Teutonic people. And they would have a fire festival 4 times a year. And at this time, it was the time changing to the time of the dead. And just what they witnessed in nature was the seasons, the leaves would fall, the trees would go bare, the crops would die, the season of growing came to an end, the animals would either go underground or they would hunt them and eat them and preserve them. And at this time of year, they would witness that the winter would come back, and winters were very hard for people when there was just a primitive lifestyle. So in the beginning, it was a time where they did offer sacrifice because they felt like maybe if we made a sacrifice to the old gods, they would be appeased and we would live through the winter. And they would also remember their dead because, as I'm saying, it's a time of the dead. And they would remember their own dead, and they did that for 3 reasons. One was because they believed by praying for their dead, they would get blessings from them and they would help them. And especially when they went to the other world themselves, they would be there to welcome them. But they also believed that if they didn't pray for the dead would be unhappy and the dead would haunt them. And they were kind of like the concept of hungry ghosts like they have in China. So you would leave offerings out for them and appease them so that they wouldn't do that. And you'd also pray hoping that the dead would bless the living and the generations to come. The gods of the olden times were the God was envisioned as the god of the hunt, and he was kind of dark, because it was the time of death. So he had horns, and he represented the horned animals and the hunter itself, and the season of death, so the time between the worlds, and the goddess at this time was seen as the ancient old woman, the old crone, a woman who knew the ways of the tribe, who remembered the stories, who brewed the potions and the food that would help them, and she was honored. Over time, the symbol of the witch is from the ancient goddess, the hag, the Kali, and it's interesting because in Indian culture and the Hindu religion, Kali is the destroying goddess, but the same word, different spelling, represents the Kali of the ancient Scots and Irish people, and she was the ancient woman of the crone of the mountains and the hag, and she was the goddess of death. And I remember when I was first initiated, I was afraid of her. And I had a teacher who held 2 hands out, and she said, one hand is for life and one hand is for death, and you have to learn that the life has both, and not to be afraid of her, because there's times when things have to be destroyed, when things have to be removed from your life, when you have to bury things, when you have to kill something so that you can live. And that helped me to realize that part is part of life, So that's the god and the goddess. And the season of the dead. And it was during the many centuries that paganism was forgotten and the Christian religion took over. The most successful thing that they did was not so much always try to wipe it out. They adopted their religious holidays, and one of them was Samhain. They couldn't quite do Walpurgis Night or Halloween because it was just too pagan, but they did change. They made November 1st was El Dia de los Muertos, or the day of was All Saints Day, and the next day was the Day of the Dead, which was All Souls Day. So that was so the holiday in the olden times was always 3 days, and to this day we have October 31st, November 1st, and November 2nd that all kind of are part of this time, and it is good to remember your ancestors because they do help you. And they can. And you pray for them and they'll pray for you. That's what we believe. So we said our prayer for the ancestors and we said our prayer to the spirits of the land.
Done.
And that's it. It was kind of good.